Welcome back to Loose Demos. Today we're going to talk about DNS, how kind of DNS works. So there are essentially 7 steps that the system goes through to resolve a name. So like an example, if Nook 8 wanted to ping Nook 7 by its name, first thing it's going to do is it's going to check itself and say, do I know how to get there? If the answer is no, then it's going to ask the DNS server. If the DNS server doesn't know because it's a new request or it's not something that we can manually update or keep track of, from there it's going to go to the root server on the internet and say, hey, how do I find this? And it's going to say, I don't know. It's going to tell you to go to the next, like an example, if we call this nook7.com, it would say, okay, let's go to the .com server, and then that server would say, okay, looking for the nook.com. They would say, I don't know, but I know where Nook authoritative server, so that basically means that is someone who owns that domain, that's their server. And then from there, your DNS server would go to them and grab that information. There's a great tutorial on YouTube that shows it from DNS Explained, from DNS Made Easy. Great video to see how that all works. I recommend you check that video out. I'm mainly focusing on just saying, hey, there's the 7 steps and how do we configure a DNS server, essentially is my goal. From here we're going to click on the server using Packet Tracer as an example. Here we essentially just have a couple things here. We're going to have our name, and then we're going to have different records. So we have an A name, a C name, an NS, we have MX records, multiple different names. So this is basically your phone book for the internet. So I'm going to put in the IP address, and then I'm going to click add, and then I'm just going to add these addresses. I already know what they are, so I'm going to add that, and then I'm just going to call server. And because this is local services, it's not going to need to go out to the internet, because this would be like an example. An organization would have servers on its network. It would have a local DNS server that would go and fetch that, and then from there, whatever it doesn't know, it would go out to the internet and do that. So here, I'm going to go to the desktop, and then we're going to just type in ping Nook 7. So here you go. Here's what we've learned. So by pinging, since we pinged the name, this utility ping, had to go to the DNS server and say, hey, who is Nook 7? And then the DNS server responded, here's his IP address, 192.168.2.11. Great. So then it sent those pings. That workstation responded back. Same thing. We up arrow and we type in the word server. So again, it's not very complicated stuff for DNS. It's just, think of it again, it's the phone book. You put in records in there, just like you get a friend, they give you their number, you put their number, their name in there. Another quick example. Here we got our DNS server. So we have our zones. So here we can double click in our zones, and then here we can create our records. So here's an example. We can create www, our web server. So we can set up the time to live. So if we want this to only have a certain length of time, we can do that. and then from here we would give it its IP address. So maybe, like an example, we want to set it for a longer time period because we only have one server. Maybe we have multiple servers, so we set this lower time because we, every time you come back, we want you to maybe pick a different server. So these are things that you would take consideration in your environment. How much time do you want someone to know these things? Because if you set it too long and something happens, they're not going to find you until their time runs out, because they already looked you up the first time. So if you set it for a day, that machine's never going to go back to your DNS server and say, okay, how much time do I have left? So just a little food for thought. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye.